It's a blessing, yeah. Life is a blessing, it's a blessing, and I know it. Yes, wow, no. Share my thoughts, yes, to the world, yeah. Oh, share my thoughts, yes, to the world. Clement come to share him thoughts.
Yes. Oh, yes, indeed. Wednesday. Time to share with thoughts once again. We give thanks to the giver of life for all good things and for bringing us together again at this point to share with thoughts on salient things concerning Africa, our beloved motherland, and Africans, the children, home and abroad. Yes, indeed, as advertised on our social media page, today we're touching on a nerve, basically, because this issue is at the core of everything. It's at the very core of a nation's sovereignty and prospects of existence. We're talking today about genetically modified organisms or foods, which for some time now is threatening Africa. Let me say it that way. Before we get into that all deep subject though, we have on the line now Kojo Sankofa. Last week we were supposed to speak with Kojo Sankofa. For some reason, the line dropped and we could not. So this is unfinished business with the man Kojo Sankofa. Let's cut to chase straight away, because on the mic right now, on the phones right now, is the man Kojo Sankofa. Blessed love, Kojo.
Greetings, my brother.
Yeah, man. First of all, let me apologize for the, how the line tripped last week and everything, but it's all good. We have the opportunity to pick up with you again today.
Right. Anyway.
Okay, so let's start afresh. Who is Kojo Sankofa?
Well, Kojo Sankofa is the man who hails from West Africa, Ghana, from the Equapim tribe. I was born up in the mountains of Equapim, and I hail from the Nketia royal family, from a proponent. And I grew up, went to different schools, but I went to high school or secondary school at Okwapaman School. From there, I went to Ghana Institute of Journalism and, been doing stuff.
Okay, but from all that you're saying, music has not come in yet. Where did your life and music meet? At what point did you have a clash with music?
Well, music was always a part, even from childhood, because I was in a church choir. And then when I entered high school, I became a part of the school choir. At that time, like the age of, I think it was 7, my dad bought me a small organ, so I could play all songs, freehand. That was my first instrument. So by the time I got out of secondary school, I learned to play the guitar on my own, and that was it. Linked up with colleagues, and then we jam and just
playing the guitar on your own. That part interests me. How did you really play the guitar on your own?
It's interesting because I bought a guitar and started, take it around to the ghetto where we meet and hang out.
Where is the ghetto? What is the ghetto? Tell us what the ghetto
is. The ghetto is like the parliament. It's where I, students, brothers, sisters, we all converge and, share our thoughts. Sometimes we get into heated arguments. Sometimes, we share food, we cook there. And, it was some sort of a place where we could all meet and, join hands in unity and help one another and all that. So that's what we call the ghetto.
I see.
Of course, there's always burning there as well.
Okay, the burning factor had to come in because otherwise it would not be a ghetto, right? But anyhow,
Absolutely.
you trained as a journalist. Your dad was a journalist too, and up to some point,
He's
from what you
still a
were saying to us
journalist.
last week, your dad had to go into exile. What's up with that? Why was that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just he was a champion of freedom of speech as a journalist. The prize for that.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Oh,
Yeah, I was saying he had to pay the price for
talking too loud.
freedom of speech. Yes. So he was in exile for a long time. Right
And-
now he has returned and he's back in Ghana, still writes as a journalist. And he's also the president of the Ghana Association of Writers.
Oh, wow. Anyhow, let's come back to you. You also
Yeah.
trained as a journalist. How does your training and your calling merge? You have a training and then you have a calling, as I would say.
That's
You
true.
trained as a journalist, but you are called as a musician. How do these two phenomena merge?
Yeah, it's been challenging so far because, I mean, like you said, music is a calling, you know. So when Jack calls you, you cannot renege on the call. So I do what, the Most High, set me out for. But also as a journalist, I've always been passionate about writing. So I see that both there's a correlation somewhere there, But when I was in school, I used to sneak out of school to go to the studio, hang out around producers and musicians and all that. But each time I was able to get through that and work as a journalist, still work as a journalist, and make time or find time out of my busy schedule, to do music, write music, play music, perform gigs, and all that. It's all about how one apportions his time and what you prioritize, so.
Great. You've also ventured into making movies or videos.
Yes,
or tell us about that.
I started out, as a matter of fact, I acted in a movie called Martin in 1993. I played the lead character at the age of 13. So that really got me interested in making films. I wrote for a colleague of mine. He started a TV series that I bought. So I wrote for him, and I also supervised, scripts. And I've always been writing scripts. I've done a documentary with Professor Awindo, writing the script and co-producing with him. And actually, that's about Rastas in Ghana.
It was a documentary?
That, yes, documentary that he took to the Berlin Festival. Not sure how that has turned out at this point.
Okay.
But after that, yes, I did write a film called Love Never Gets Lost, which is still under production. We're working on that project. And listeners can go on our website, www.lovenevergetslost.com, to check it out for yourself. It's a love story, and it's also about slavery. It's about, so many.
It's a love story. And talking about love stories, I'm sure you have you have a bit to say about love stories. So
Yeah.
this is an example of what you have to say about love stories. Stick up in, we'll be right back. Enjoy this one from Kojo Sankofa. It's called Blow My Mind. We'll be right back with the man, Kojo Sankofa.
Thanks.
She keeps on blowing my mind. She's just one of a kind.
Kojo Sankofa, who was driving you? Who was driving you crazy?
Yes. I mean, love is divine. So.
So as a Rasta man, obviously you talk about love as well as a wide range of issues. If I should ask you, what is your theme generally as an artist? What is your range of themes that you deal with in your music? What would you say?
Well, the most important thing is the message. Music has to have a message, and a positive message as well, because when I say just a message, that is so vague, So it has to have a positive message, and it has to impact on the people, and it must come from the heart, because that's where everything comes from. It must be from the heart to touch ones and ones, So that's what I do.
For sure.
It's non-commercial. Of course, money runs things, and when money comes, it's irate. But first and foremost, it's satisfaction from touching people.
Definitely. Let me ask you a two-pronged question. You call yourself a griot. We know what the griots are. The griots are a generation of musicians that descend from Africa, somewhere in the western part, I believe, right? And then,
that's true.
Yeah, so tell us about that, and then tell us also what you call your music. What genre do you place your music in?
Okay, first and foremost, griot, it's a title that a good virgin of mine, Idris, in Detroit, he came up with, because I was telling him a story of my ancestors, because my father's mother came from a line of people who had traveled from Mali and all the way there, and their line, they were griots. They're storytellers and medicine men and women, and then great musicians. So I see that my family, not just me, my father, my uncles, most of them writers, have taken after that, and it's all about storytelling, So in Detroit, I used to go around, or in Michigan, I should say, I went around schools, libraries, telling African stories and playing folk guitar, So that's how the name griot came about.
I see.
And also, I don't really, I play reggae as a Rastaman. I play Nyabingi, African music. I think people try to put each other in a box, but music is unlimited.
Definitely, Kojo. Thank you very much, Kojo Sankofa. What would be your last words for our viewers, listeners?
It's a great opportunity and my pleasure to be on air with my brethren, Ras Kwesi, your beloved. I pray that your listeners and everybody, just strengthen them and shine your light on them. It's a very positive avenue for us to express ourselves as African people. So just keep your fire burning, and all the support. I is there for the eye.
Definitely. One love, Kojo Sankofa. Thank you so very much. And as time goes on, we'll definitely want you to be part and parcel of this program. This is not a one-off thing.
Absolutely.
We will definitely, because we know that you're also a thinker, right? You have things to say about different subjects going on. So one of these days, please find time and join our People's Parliament, and let's talk about stuff together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Love to the family. Yeah. Nyamisha, so one love. Yeah, man. That was the man Kojo Sankofa. He has a band called Indigenous Groove, and this music is from the band Indigenous Groove. Enjoy.
My African roots and culture, we've got to hold on firm. This great African civilization, burning out this evil vulture. Yeah, in this year time, we've got to build our nation. Give me that ancient African tradition. Yeah. Oh. unite the African. Coming out of this foundation, the truth revealing, prophecies fulfilling. Emancipate your mind, don't be blind. Come out of captivity, hey, stand cover. Oh, Lord, Lord, stand cover.
Stand cover.
Oh,
Stand cover.
my roots,
Stand cover.
culture. Oh, na 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 na, yeah. Oh, na 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 na, Lordy, Lord, Lord, Lord. Na 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 na. Oh, yeah, yeah. Come on, come on. Come on, come on. African roots and culture. Yeah. Can't deny it. Yeah. Give it to me. Yeah. Oh. Marcus Mosiah Gavison. Oh, yeah. Even without the roots of the culture, it's like a tree without its roots. Oh, na 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 na.
Stand cover.
My roots.
Stand cover.
Culture.
Stand cover.
My roots, yeah.
Stand cover.
Come on, come on.
Stand cover.
My roots.
Stand cover.
Oh, na 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 na. Yeah. Na 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 na.
Cover.
Yeah, na 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 na.
Stand cover. Stand cover.
My roots.
Stand cover.
Culture.
Stand cover.
Na 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 na. Oh. I'm right. Culture. One blood. One people.
Rebellion production.
It's attitude. Most
Most I protect I. Inna me going out and inna me coming in. Most I protect I. From the wicked man, the goons and the goblins. Most I protect I. Too much of evil out there lurking. Most I protect I. Cause I'm protected by the kingdom. Can't do me one thing, not a thing, no. Great is your reward. Me no say time hard, but you still keep faith in God. Jah knows it wicked and it tried. Jah protection is the only thing we have, and they just don't realize. Badness you're dealing, get you short of life. Kill out your children and text say it's alright. One done that bad, we go out them lights. Me nah give up the fight, no. The emperor is always by my side, yeah. Through rocky road and steep mountains, the King of Glory bless me through all things. I sing and glorify His name. Glorify His name. Most I protect I. Inna me going out and inna me coming in. Most I protect I. From the wicked man, the goons and the goblins. Most I protect I. Too much of evil out there lurking. Most I protect I. Cause I'm protected by the kingdom. Can't do me one thing, not a thing, no. Most I protecting we, me and the family. Love our we got and we not frightened for your salary. You still oppress the poor and the needy. Them piranha, they greedy. Inna this a new generation, we got the salvation. Shall free the youth them up with righteousness. Yes, to free up your frustration. Give love to the nation. Embrace the little children with love. We burn out segregation, cause in a
Chinese and Irish. We need more love. And so I pray every day, Jah guide me along my way. And this is what I say. Most I protect I. Inna me going out and inna me coming in. Most I protect I. From the wicked man, the goons and the goblins. Most I protect I. Too much of evil out there lurking. Most I protect I. Cause I'm protected by the kingdom, can't do me one thing. Most I protect I. Inna me going out and inna me coming in. Most I protect I. From the wicked man, the goons and the goblins. Most I protect I. Too much of evil out there lurking. Most I protect I. Cause I'm protected by the kingdom, can't do me one thing, not a thing, no. Most I protect I. In my going out and my coming in, yeah. Most I protect I. Most
Singing not a big deal, not at all. Like them singing, yeah? Why must I not blend it with the righteous? So I pick up a habit like singing alongside special as Dennis.
Yeah, the ghetto youths them a balling. Violence and crime keep escalating. Inna the ghetto me say pressure keep on piling. Every day me say the children are dying. Yeah, the ghetto youths them a balling. Violence and crime keep escalating. Inna the streets me say pressure keep on piling. Every day me say the children are dying. Can't take no more. Can't take no more. Can't take no more. Them control system.
It really gets to me, yeah, yeah.
Can't take no more. Can't take no more. Can't take no more. Them control system. We are sick and tired of being the victims. Every night and day appear worries and problems.
Yeah.
Only Rastafari can help us resolve them. Let me sing it out. Can't take no more of the cultural system.
Dirty Babylon, we say them can't be me friend. I trap them, a trap us not the lion's den. Life gets so hard we can't rise up again. Cause we are bound by them shackles and chains. Mashing up the people with them genocide plans. Tearing us apart with them segregation. Them want to see the people live in confusion. Full time fi rise up strong, take up wisdom.
When will this thing never end? The claim say we and them are friend. But every day I just the same trend. When you check it out, alright, them just alright, but we back there. Hypocritical markers, devising policies so murderous. Using the divide and rule mechanism. Now them they have to mash up with region. Can't take no more. Can't take no more. Can't take no more of them control system. So we can't take no more. Can't take no more. Can't take no more of them control
Can't
system.
take it no more. Most time, most time. Everybody they up there, your system live for rat race. Yeah. The poor and needy who feel sit no sit till I pay the price. If one round me feel it's hardship, it's like them left people in a me shoe dip. Them want to do anything to tie we down with this system. It really gets to me.
Chaos and flames all over the world. Innocent blood just a run down the drain. Hardships and pain, denial and strain. Tell me now, Babylon, who take the blame? As I walk down the lane, I see enough sufferation, tribulation at its peak. You will go insane if you don't use your gumption. So better watch where you live. Jah Rastafari is my shield and buckler. The truth is my sword and hammer. But me not go relent. Jah give I strength. If I were in this, I'm a Gideon.
Everything, everywhere, everything crush. Can't take it, can't see, don't feed them victimize us. Babylon, them can't us. From them find good in a us, them rush us.
Can't take no more. Can't take no more. Can't take no more. Them cultural system. So we can't take no more. Can't take no more. Can't take no more. The cultural system. We are sick and tired.
Yes, indeed. Sounds of the man Kwesi Levi. Kwesi Levi. Before that, you heard the sounds of Russ Attitude. But yeah, right about now, we are going to the main subject of the day. Africa has always fed itself, one way or the other, for centuries and centuries and centuries. But up to a point, we saw this image of a hungry Africa, an emaciated Africa, a bowl in hand Africa begging the rest of the world for food. This image was followed by an inundation of the press. I mean, not of the press, an inundation of several African countries with attempts to bring in genetically modified foods. Genetically modified foods are supposed to solve the world's hunger problems. But does it really do that? What are the side effects? Is it even good at all for a nation to basically surrender its food sovereignty or its right to eat what it wants to multinational corporations who are the ones developing these genetically modified foods? Last week, a group in Accra, Ghana, staged a protest demanding that the government should stay away from genetically modified goods. I mean, genetically modified foods. So we're fortunate this time to have representatives of the Food Sovereignty Ghana on the line right now. And we also have Rosanna Silvestro. Rosanna Silvestro worked with the organization Permaculture. Permaculture promotes the organic or the natural way of growing foods, which is definitely at variance with the phenomenon of genetically modified foods that we're talking about. So we have on the line right now Russ Aswad and Kweku Dadzi from Food Sovereignty Ghana, and also Rosanna Silvestro reaching us from Australia, who has done a lot of work with permaculture. You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, welcome. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Are you on the line too, Rosa? I didn't hear your voice.
Yes. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Can you hear
good.
me?
Yes, I can hear you. Fantastic. All right. So, let's go straight into it. Kweku, start for us, please. Generally, when we talk about GMOs, what are GMOs?
Yes, thank you very much to your listeners. Listen to this brilliant and important show in agriculture. I think that when we say genetically modified organisms in the form of feed or in the form of food, we are basically referring to the transfer of genes from an animal, let's say from a dog, a fish, a cat, a donkey, or even a bacterium, or any living organism, into a different species, okay? So, for instance, into another animal or into a plant. But currently, what you are referring to is into a plant. So they transfer the gene into the DNA of a different crop, and then manipulate to this gene to develop new traits as a result of the transfer from the old previous living organism. So that particular process or technique is done actually in the laboratory, and that is defined as genetically modified organism.
All right.
It is something that is new as compared to other forms of biotechnology.
Okay. the argument for, funny enough, I was trying to find people to speak for genetically modified organisms, but for some reason, those are really hard to come by. But I've seen videos, even videos where representatives from your outfit were kind of locked up in an argument with one Professor Al-Hassan, who was a proponent for, or who is a proponent for GMOs. One of the arguments is that it solves the world's hunger problems. We can grow more food using, like state-of-the-art biological and agricultural techniques. What essentially is wrong with GMOs, Ras Aswad? What essentially is the problem with GMOs?
Yes, the first thing to know is that a lot of these claims that they have made, they are false. And the reason why I'm saying that is that it has proven over and over again that after the first crop, after 1 year, all these claims have failed. There are over 400 scientists in the world who have came together and disproved this theory. The Terminator seed that has been designed also is another example that the small farmers of the world will definitely suffer because of the fact that the multinational corporations have decided to insert in that gene a terminator cell which will destroy that fertility of that crop after 1 year. So it means that farmers who are investing in these seeds cannot hone their farm and their planting season like they used to do it. So definitely it becomes counterproductive for the farmers, and it makes the corporations rich. So from this point, it is clear that it is not in the interest of the farmers.
Is it true though that it solves the world's hunger problem? Let me ask this. Let me ask Rosanna this. Let me ask Rosanna this one, and then we'll come back to you, to speak more about the protest and other stuff. Rosanna, is it true, remotely even, that GMOs have the potential for solving the world's problems in terms of food sustenance?
Well, I don't believe so. The Green Revolution proved that, although they increased food production, there's still a problem of access, you see. I like what the other guests were just saying there. It's a good explanation, but it cannot do that, and they're messing with nature, and we don't know actually the full effects of genetically modified organisms, and we don't want to find out either. We just want to increase yields, through agricultural methods that are safe, and I don't think that GMOs are safe, and there is a lot of evidence by scientists that it can cause cancer. You see, so no.
Okay, so to start with, it's not even been proven that GMO can actually solve the backlog of food, like a food deficit, if I can call it that. It's not even been proven.
Well, if we look at India as an example, we have farmers committing suicide. Hundreds of thousands of people that have tried this, and because of the terminator seeds, they've actually become destitute, bankrupt, because they're relying on these seeds. Not only that, they rely on the pesticides and the herbicides that they're forced on them, you see.
Yep.
So it's a bit of a form of slavery, really.
Interesting thoughts. Kweku,
yes,
it has been claimed that the GMOs require less pesticides. and then they also have more yield. And then also they say that to solve Africa's problem, for instance, there are some parts of Africa where it's been suggested that, for instance, vitamin A could be injected into the rice to feed to the people to, to solve some of the so-called malnutrition problems we have in the countries with starvation problems. What's your reaction to that?
Yes, that has been some of the claim by proponents or advocates of GMOs. But let me put in some clarification here. Genetically modified foods, there are some of them that actually increases yield only within the short term. Now, there are a lot of statistics showing that, for instance, BT cotton, which is Bacillus transgenic cotton, actually increases yield, but it is not sustainable and it's not consistent within the short term. There have been countries like Argentina, like Mexico, like South Africa, where BT cotton cultivation has shown that it even though within the short term it increases yield, but long-term studies actually showcase something different, where, for instance, there was drop or decline in cultivation rate. Just closer to Ghana here is Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso recently started cultivating BT cotton, and we just checked the statistics recently and realized that over 630,000 tons of cotton has just dropped down, almost about 30% decline, and it tells you that it's not a proper technology actually to resolve the issue of the textile industry. So basically, these early signs or indications of increased yield has been the major propaganda by these private few multinational companies. And we do believe that if long-term studies are conducted, for instance, in the U.S. and in India, where there has been long-term cultivation of some of the GM varieties, records will show that they do not actually increase yield and they do not actually perform as expected. There are some of the crops, for instance, as my sister mentioned, which are more like insecticides. Because of the introduction of a certain gene, this gene releases certain toxins, and therefore, naturally, they then become artificially insecticide. Now, with these particular crops, what happens is that the genes in them get to a certain particular period of maturity where it no longer becomes capable or able to withstand the insect or pest that attack the crop. So it means that it loses its insecticide ingredients, which has been introduced as a result of the gene.
I see. I totally get your point.
And therefore, it becomes something that is not sustainable.
Point well made.
That has been some of the controversies around the technology.
Point well
As a
made.
result
Point well
of
made.
that, in India, for instance, there has been a high increase of farm suicide because of the failure of the technology. When farmers actually
let's push on. Let's move on from that point. You actually made that point very succinctly. Let me ask you, Rosa. The Professor Walter Sando Hassan, for instance, suggests that genetic modification has always been with us. He says it came with the concept of agriculture, that every food that we eat has been somehow modified in a certain way to increase yields and stuff like that. Why is it an issue now?
Well, it's the way they're doing it, and as Kojo mentioned earlier, was it Kojo? Yeah, I can't remember his name. Kweku. Okay. He did state that they're adding genes of animals now to plants, and let's say you were a vegetarian, right, or a vegan, and you didn't know what you were putting into your mouth right now. You wouldn't be too happy, would you? And also, it doesn't really make sense that you would add animal matter to plant matter. We're seeing some very serious changes in, insects and even creatures have been washed up on shores, on beaches that people don't actually know what they are because these are new, modified creatures. We don't know what's coming. What's going to happen to our bodies, infertility, all sorts of tumours, turning up that we never had in the past. My ancestors never had cancer. My mother died from cancer, and we don't know whether that's food-related, but it's quite possible it's definitely chemical, some form of chemical or some cell, damage that, didn't exist in the past. So was that created, or how come that's so, such a modern phenomena? Where did that come from?
Good point.
This is only fairly new, and you can check the dates and do the math, and, there's something going on.
But Rosa,
That's what I see.
again, some of the arguments of the pro-GMO quarter is that it increases shelf life. Like in Ghana, for instance, a lot of the farmers' foods that they harvest get stuck in the forest because of bad infrastructure, and for some reason, the shelf life is so low that it virtually rots in the forest. Some of the arguments they've made is that will increase shelf life. What's your reaction to that?
Sure. I feel that we're growing food too far from the source of consumption. So we need to grow food closer to where we live, in the form of community farms, community gardens. Permaculture, design can be used to grow food in your backyard, like we used to.
Yep.
Close to home. We don't need to really use trucks, and petrol prices are going up and distribution costs are going up, and really,
is that sustainable on a global scale, though? Is that sustainable on a global scale?
Absolutely. You look at Cuba, they are the most sustainable country on the planet, I believe, and that is because they went through the whole sort of, oil crisis, 1993, and they went through a terrible period of hunger when they didn't have oil, and they started growing food everywhere, on the side of the streets, anywhere. They started growing trees, where forests were cut down, and have a look at Cuba, okay? And that's what we're going to go through.
Okay.
Genetically modified organisms, yes, we've been using, genetic modification for a long time, and I believe that there are some benefits. There are some benefits, but I haven't seen many.
Okay. Russ Aswad, let's go to the protest that happened just last week in Ghana. GMOs have been with us for quite a while now. Why did it pop up all of a sudden last week? What prompted the protest?
Well, we founded our organization about 6 months ago, Food Sovereignty Ghana, and we wanted also to be a part of the international movement, which instituted this march against Monsanto. So it was a fitting time for us to come out in Ghana at this moment to make the population aware of what is going on, because of the fact that there wasn't enough information in the system concerning GMO. And quite effectively done. When we got to the marketplace from the center where we moved from to the market women, the consumers, and the people in the area, they were very, very surprised to hear some of this revealing information concerning GMO. So it was very shocking in the sense that this has been in the system and they knew nothing about it. Right? So because of our awareness that this information was not in the system, we decided to take it to the public rather than having a debate in a small room, which was part of what the United States government was trying to do, was to get us to involve in debates in small room with just a selected group of people, and we told them, no, we want to take this to the street and take it to the people, and that's what we did.
Okay, so let me ask you, is Ghana really under threat from the GMOs?
Is it under threat? Of course, anywhere GMO turns up, it will be under threat. just like I mentioned before, that if you have a seed that is called a terminator seed and also a traitor seed, which is going to create a problem in terms of you being able to control your destiny where your planting season is concerned, then certainly it is definitely a threat.
Mm-hmm.
How bad is this threat? Because I know that back in 2010, Cabinet approved the so-called safety bill, whatever they call it, which basically is to introduce GMOs into Ghana. That was in 2010. Right. But up to this point, what else has happened? Is it really that bad?
No, well, so far they have started the so-called confined field trials, which, as you know, if it's not in an totally enclosed area, it is not confined. Right? And as far as we are concerned, it is just confined by having a wire fence around it, which we are concerned about the issue of cross-pollination. Right? So that has started so far. And of course, there are, issues, concerns about the borders where different goods, maybe GM goods, can cross from different countries.
That is a very vital point.
And since they are not labeled, right? Since they are not labeled, of course, we are not going to know exactly whether it is GM or not.
It's a really vital point.
As far as we are concerned, since the United States, maize is about 80% GMO, and the soybean is about 95%. And since we get so much aid from these countries, such as the United States, the ton loads of different aid that we get from them in food, of course we are very concerned that, yes, it is a threat in that sense. So these are some of the issues that, food sovereignty is actually facing at this moment.
Very, very vital point as well. But apart from, the point that you just made, I also realized that there's a lot of vegetables, for instance, coming in from a country like Burkina Faso, just north of Ghana, which actually has signed on practically fully to the idea. And surprisingly, when you go to the market women prefer to buy and sell the tomatoes that are coming from Burkina Faso because they look better, because of obviously the shelf life, and for what other reasons I don't know. Let me put this to Kweku. What are we going to do about this? Because first of all, there is no check, right? And then again, and then now, the ones that are coming in are actually taking over the market from the natural ones that we already have on the ground. What can be done about that?
Yes. And I think these are evidence of the fact that our food sovereignty is under serious threat. We used to cultivate tomatoes in this country during the early 60s, and we used to even, to some extent, export to Burkina Faso. But there has been some changes as a result of the fact that they have invested heavily in irrigation systems. And that has been one of the things that our governments have failed in doing, investing publicly in irrigation systems. Because we have a lot of river bodies that during certain times overflow on marginal land. And we need proper rural planning in order to ensure that these water bodies are properly reserved for farm practices and what have you. These methods of system have lacked public investment, and that has one of the critical factors. And I think also that what we need to do is to increase consumer awareness or public awareness about food safety, not only about what they go to the market to purchase, but to also influence the policymakers. For instance, if they're able to convince more people that they should not buy GM food, okay, it will actually compel farmers to think whether to buy GM seeds or to actually use organic seeds in cultivation, and also actually strengthen the case of farmers to present more pressure on the government to provide the incentives and the other support services needed for increased yield and what have you.
Okay.
So I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it can only be achieved when people discuss the issues more. We raise the issues more in the local and rural areas for them to understand critically what is actually happening, because most of these things are foreign directly imposed. They are policies that are not crafted by our own people. Their policies are casted from outside.
And not
that comes with some small amount of money.
That also raises a very good point, leading me to my next question, which I will ask Rosanna. Rosanna, why are African leaders even signing on to this at all? It doesn't look like it's in anybody's interest. Why would any right-thinking leader sign away the sovereignty of their food source? Basically, from what we've said here, and I don't think it's been challenged on too many platforms, but the seeds do not, they don't reproduce. There's that killer, thing that Aswad just mentioned. Why would any right-thinking leader sign away their food rights to a multinational company? What's the catch?
Well, you'll have to ask them that question. It's all about money, I guess, isn't it? Somebody's making some big deals there, and governments there are a little bit sort of, not using their brains too well. Monsanto's celebrating World Food Prize at the moment. They have a very strong, propaganda set up there, and they can convince you, that their products are very good, but at the end of the day, you don't be scared about, food security, because, Africa's so rich, the land, the soil, seed varieties. You need to protect your biodiversity, and your leaders need to, get educated. They need to, start to think a little bit more.
I think the latter is actually the issue.
Long-term, Kwesi, long-term.
They do, and I think it's more an issue of them having to use their gumptions more than getting educated, because some of these people are PhD holders and stuff like that, and they definitely should know better than.
PhD and all that sort of thing. Don't worry about the PhD thing. I don't care about paperwork. Just go to the forest, go to the farm, and just look at the farm, and look at how seeds, appear.
Yep.
And
Is Africa?
You don't need to plant them; they drop.
Okay.
And they grow.
Cool. Aswad, is Africa really that hungry? Is Africa really hungry? Considering all the food that rots in the farms, which a simple solution like building the roads can cure, is Africa really that hungry that we need GMOs?
It is not hungry in that sense. There are a lot of food that are being produced daily. Yes, we do need proper roads to transport the produce from the farm to the market and so on. Yes, we do need more investment in farmers in terms of them having enough capital to invest in the farm. These things are real issues on the ground, right? But in terms of of trying to pretend and to paint a picture like the countries, Africa is so hungry and starving that we need genetically modified food, I would say no. Right? So that is not really an issue for us in that sense. And just as the point that the sister the question you asked about the leaders are not patriotic in Africa in terms of having Africa's interests at heart. Right? They are more interested in serving Western countries in terms of whatever it is that the Western countries want them to do, and not so much the interest of Africa. And these are some of the issues that causes a lot of these problems in Africa. There needs to be more commitment from the leader where Africa is concerned to know that they need to put Africa first and foremost.
Interesting. Let me share some thoughts that I had from a friend, John Palin in in India, who we were trying to get on the program, but for some reason we are not able to reach. But he sent us some really interesting thoughts, and I want us all to, peruse it together and see what we can reach, what we can get out of it. He says, for instance, that the harmony of species with nature and its cycles is disturbed through the introduction of GMOs. He says it pollutes the food cycle and our health. He says the safety of such products is not verified yet. In fact, we are lab rats in this whole process. He also says genetically modified ingredients can cause cancer. A consultant histopathologist I've never heard this word before, honestly, but it must be somebody who knows what he's saying, says that, this histopathologist is from Aberdeen Royal Infirmary. He's called Dr. Stanley Ewen. He raised concerns with the food and water, which were genetically engineered, and it's been proven that he was actually right. He says it could raise new allergy outbreaks in humans. New allergy outbreaks. And this has also been, a bit of research has gone into this as well to prove that. He also says that underdeveloped countries will become more dependent on other communities. And this is what we were just talking about. Africa doesn't own the seed banks. Africa doesn't own the multinational companies. It's basically like saying, here, from now on, anytime we're hungry, we will come to you. We're giving away our rights to feed ourselves. What is wrong with us? Let me start with you, Kweku. Let's make it brief, actually. Let's take like a minute each to answer the questions.
Hello?
What is wrong with us? Why we know all of these things? I'm sure all of these things have been communicated to governments. What is wrong with us as a people?
Yes. I think that it has to do with the orientation of our political leaders. The orientation of our political leaders. You have a situation where most of our political leaders right through the educational system to this particular stage where they find themselves have been oriented in a manner that anything that they do needs to be dictated from outside, needs to be a fit from outside and not to be originated from within and from what really exists at the moment. Then you build upon it. So they don't have that particular orientation. And so as a result of that, it drives and cuts through everything relating to the policies, relating to decisions they make and everything that affects the overall people of the country. And I think that the lack of political will to take bold steps, you see, to take bold steps in ensuring that the country adopts proper food or agricultural policies that will make it self-reliant is also not there. The political role is not there. And these are the two main things that is actually affecting our political leaders. But I think that our political leaders can only work when the people hold them accountable to some of these things. And that is why Food Sovereignty Ghana is really serious about this issue, about raising awareness about the effect, not only the health effect, but actually the seed monopoly that will affect the seed producers and the agricultural seed suppliers in this country. Because most of them complain a lot about the way they are treated in the agriculture sector, but they need other stakeholders to support them. They need the consumers. They also need the farmers themselves. They need the market women who travel to the hinterland to purchase the bulk quantity of the maize and the rice to the main cities for us to go and buy and consume. They need everybody to be part of it, so that we need to increase our energy in ensuring that our leaders are held accountable to some of the policies that they actually adopt from the Western countries.
We sure
and
do.
I think that will help a lot. That will really help a lot.
We sure
and I
do.
think that I'm so grateful that the doctor read his information about the medical issue or the health implications from GMOs, one consuming GMOs. I'm so grateful about that information, because in Ghana here, most of the few of the members of the National Biosecurity Authority, including Professor Lasse Sande, try to snobbish some of these things, despite scientific studies that have been conducted, indicating that GMOs tested on rabbits, eventually led to liver and kidney failures, and eventually also
all
led
right,
to death
yes, definitely, yeah, that's right.
Yes. And I think that these information are very critical for us to share, so that our people will be convinced that this is a danger.
It is, Kweku. It is, Kweku. Let me ask Rosa. Rosa, you mentioned at a point that GMOs may have some benefits. If they do you think labeling them would solve the dichotomy we find ourselves in right now? Like, say you go to a shop and then the thing says GMO. So if you want GMO, you go for GMO. If you don't, then you skip it. Is labeling going to do anything at all?
Well, it certainly helps to have that information, but at the end of the day, having these seeds on the land, and they they will definitely be spreading. I mean, what happens when my neighbour is growing GMO seeds and I don't, and they spread to my land? Well, that's trespassing.
Yep.
Quite frankly, I mean, I don't want that shit on my land. Sorry. This is not about accepting it. It's my right not to have that. You see, it's my right, and many countries have banned GMOs. Italy, Brazil, India's got court cases running at the moment. Hungary, I think even Zambia, Zambia in Africa has said no to, Europe has banned GMO seeds, but they import, GMO seeds for feed stock for the animals there, and that has problems too, because there are people eating beef and so forth, and they're eating an animal which now has eaten a genetically modified, food.
Yeah.
So I don't think Monsanto and these companies say that they've increased yields and improved things for farmers and consumers over the last 30 years, but we don't just eat corn and rice and wheat. We eat, look at all the different plants and look at, how many tomatoes there are, different types of tomatoes, different types of potatoes and, root vegetables and, many different types of, things. We don't want just 5 things to eat. We want plenty of different varieties.
Yep.
And if they start giving us just one tomato, that looks like a plastic, shelf piece, I don't care. I don't want that. I want many, many different types.
Yep. Totally.
I don't want to have somebody controlling my seeds and giving me something that might have some animal product in it or cause cancer or something like that. I want to know. So yes, labelling can help.
Definitely.
And America has a big problem with that. We're okay here in Australia to some extent, but we have the problem with wheat, of course, and so many people don't eat bread anymore because they get sick from the this type of wheat that they're growing here. I don't know.
Interesting.
What that is, but I'm not an expert on GMOs, so I have to tell you that. But
this platform, this platform is not for experts. It's for us who feel it. And as a matter of fact, some of the experts have failed us totally. So we're not too interested in experts, but say we're interested in how we feel about the subject.
John Paley is a biotechnologist.
Yep.
And, he actually left a lucrative, position as a biotechnologist because he saw that this was very dangerous. And I believe that David Suzuki talked a lot about this, and I believe a lot of people are leaving the food technology industry because of these reasons.
Yep.
It's not the solution, I'm sorry.
We are going to have what we call on this program FaceTime with you and John at another time, you to talk about permaculture, which actually, if you ask me, has some solutions to a lot of the things that, the GMOs claim are problems. And then John can also come in and help us talk, look more into the whole phenomenon. But for today, that would be great. Yeah, we would definitely do that. Let's wrap up today because my time is fast spent. Let me have a last word from all of you. If you had the opportunity to speak to, I know you guys had the opportunity with Food Sovereignty Ghana. How did you break down the message to the people? If you say GMOs, a lot of the people don't know what you're talking about. They see the tomatoes. They see the one from Burkina Faso. It's big. It's red. It looks like it's going to last for a few days. They see the one from Ghana. It's not that big. It's not that red and all of that. How do you really convince these people that GMOs is not the way to go? Let me start with you, Kweku.
Starting with me, right?
Kweku, yes, but please be brief because my time is yeah.
I think that if you go to the market, before you buy anything, ask from the woman selling the product to you whether the product is genetically modified or not.
You sure they will know?
You
I
need
don't
to
think
check
they
the
know.
label.
They just buy the stuff and sell it.
No. Yes, no, I'm saying that basically that is the kind of information that would want the consumers who would later get to know of the dangers of GMOs.
But Kweku, Kweku, hold on. Stick a pin. Stick a pin, Kweku. Let's get this straight.
Yeah.
I have been, put me aside. There are some people who actually have been to school, they've received like a good education and everything. They don't know what GMOs are. How on earth is the woman selling tomatoes in the market supposed to know what GMOs are or how they even look like?
No, that one would be very difficult. It is very difficult. The only thing is that whenever you buy, some of the tomatoes do not have seeds. And there are some of the tomatoes that are actually cultivated not using GM system of farming, but will also have seeds in them. So basically, you don't buy tomatoes that do not have seeds. That is the first thing. But for you to differentiate between, let's say, GM maize and then the organic maize is difficult unless you use molecular technical sensitive techniques to actually detect the trans
which the average Joe doesn't have.
The average Joe doesn't have, you understand? That is why we are saying that there should be a moratorium. The government of Ghana should ban this thing until the general public understands some of these things, because these are not any other things that you just introduce to the food chain. As my sister said, you would actually poison the food chain. It was very difficult for you to differentiate between GM maize and then organic maize.
That's right. That's right.
Rice and organic maize.
That's true.
African rice and the ordinary rice. You cannot differentiate unless otherwise it is bad. That is why the National Biosafety Authority ensures that there is protection and somehow some degree of risk assessment. For instance, with labeling, if somebody actually imports GM maize into the system, and without bagging them with the label and everything, without seeking approval from the National Biosafety Authority, such a person is liable for prosecution.
That's right. So that's that point well made. Point well made.
Yes, someone trying to protect the consumer. If you see somebody selling GM food in canned form or anything, and the person has
point made, Kweku. I really need to move. I really need to move on. Kweku. Point made. Aswad, how are we going to deal with this situation? First of all, let me ask you though, how was the protest? How was the protest received by Ghanaians?
Can you repeat that question?
How was the protest received by Ghanaians, the people that you were fighting for? How was it? How did they receive your?
The first thing is that they were a bit surprised in terms of the information that we have to give them, and they are looking forward to get more information and to find solutions to these problems. So they are very open at this moment. They are very, very receptive at this moment for solutions, and that is the main thing among them. It's very important to say that to emphasize the point that we are definitely calling for a moratorium, a ban on these products, because of the fact that, I explained it already in terms of the border, crossing the borders with these products and the lack of identification at this moment where GMO is concerned.
Yep.
So we are calling on the government to take a very proactive move towards getting this moratorium in place so that the country can be secure. The food, as far as we see it, it is being used as a weapon. Right? It's been used as a weapon and also a depopulation weapon. And it is very frightening when you look at it from that standpoint, because the Terminator seed, as I said before, is very counterproductive in the sense that they are selecting just quite a few seeds. It's not all the seeds they are going after. They are going after a few seeds. So it means to say that once they have controlled those seeds, you are at their mercy. So it's important for a moratorium to be in place to deal with the situation. Definitely.
And Rosa, how would you explain to my grandmother the menace that the continent is facing?
I beg your pardon?
How would you explain to, people like what Aswad said, who have never even heard about GMOs, how do you think we should take this fight on the grassroots level?
Well, I think it's important that we set up seed banks, you know, and protect, you know, the seed stocks that we have, you know, and wealthier nations are doing just that and actually going to a lot of trouble to protect their seeds in underground vaults and so forth. You know, we need to grow food. So that means that we need to grow a lot of different varieties, and we need to save our own seeds, and we need to share them, and the farmers, you know, need to save their seeds, which they've always done, and they need to continue doing that, and they need to stop buying from, you know, these companies that claim that they're going to feed the world, because they are not feeding the world, they are controlling the world. Okay?
Yep.
As was said.
Okay.
It's true. Food is a weapon, and it is the most powerful weapon. So population control is coming, and it is here. And you know, we need to do something about that, I guess.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ras Aswad and Kweku Dadzi from the Food Sovereignty Ghana. And thank you, Rosanna Silvestro. I normally want to still associate you with permaculture, especially on a subject like this. And like I said, we will have another program where we would have you, Rosa, speaking for permaculture, and John Paley speaking from the point of an expert in GMOs, and have a deeper understanding of this. But in the meantime, let me say thank you, Ras Aswad, Kweku Dadzi, and Rosanna Silvestro. Yes, you're welcome every time.
Thank you very much.
Yep. So, viewers, listeners, this is it. It was kind of a marathon. We had to really kick it because the subject still, to me, hasn't been totally exhausted. But like I said, we'll be picking it up again. Thank you very much. See you next Wednesday when we come your way with another version of your bombastic conscious vibes. In the meantime, Africans, beware. Don't be ignorant. Don't sit down and be a pawn. Don't be a pawn in the game of multinational companies. Food is vital. If someone owns your seeds, they own you. I think this protest was a really welcome one, and every country in Africa needs one on a huge scale. We need to be cautious. Sounds of Kofi Dishan, he says, caution. Until next week, Wednesday, when we come your way again, it's blessed love.
Caution, tunnel work on the tunnel. Caution, caution.